is Valley News Live at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. President Biden says his decision to end America's longest war in Afghanistan was the right one, despite leaving U.S. citizens behind. The State Department says it's been in contact with some of those Americans as the administration also vets tens of thousands of Afghan refugees. Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
President Biden addressed the nation less than 24 hours after the last U.S. soldier, Major General Chris Donahue, left Afghanistan, ending a 2 decades-long war.
Leaving August the 31st is not due to an arbitrary deadline. It was designed to save American lives.
The administration estimates more than 122,000 people were evacuated, while around 300 Americans remain in Afghanistan.
Americans need to be able to be brought home. This cannot be our history. This cannot be where this ends.
The Biden administration says it will continue coordinating with international partners to ensure safe passage for any U.S. citizens and Afghan allies who still want to evacuate.
We remain committed to get them out if they want to come out.
The State Department has moved diplomatic operations from Kabul to Doha, Qatar. Critics of the complete withdrawal from Afghanistan worry that it will impede the U.S.'s ability to collect intelligence and protect against future threats. U.S. law enforcement officials confirmed to CBS News the Department of Homeland Security has issued warnings that extremists could seek to exploit the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. DHS has deployed staff to assist in vetting the tens of thousands of Afghan allies arriving to the U.S. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The U.S. can currently house more than 28,000 Afghan refugees at 7 military installations across the country. Officials are working to expand that capacity to up to 50,000. One boy has died and 4 other juveniles are seriously hurt after a rollover in Monoman County. Sheriff Josh Gunther says it happened last night on County Road 4 just northeast of Nadawash. Deputies say the vehicle was making a turn southbound when it rolled into the ditch. One boy was pronounced dead at the scene. 2 others had to be airlifted and the other 2 were taken by ambulance before being flown to trauma centers. The sheriff says all of the juveniles have serious injuries, one being a life-threatening head injury. Fargo police are warning the community about a high-risk sex offender that is now registered in the area as homeless. Ian Oxa was convicted of gross sexual imposition in 2006. The victim was a girl under the $1 million reward for information on the leader of an international drug ring with ties to North Dakota. Gung Zung is the lead. Information on where he may be. Contact the DEA at 504-534-5134 or email the address there on your screen.
Thanks, Stacy. Happy Tuesday, everybody. A beautiful one out there at Devil's Lake home. Cumulus clouds that we're seeing really quiet on this Tuesday, and temperatures aren't too bad either at this time as well. Now, here's how things are, guys, and yes, radar backs that up. Hardly a cloud in the sky being detected by satellite imagery. And with the sunshine, we've been able to warm up into the lower 80s in the Southern Valley and out toward the west. Even Devil's Lake there at this hour is at 80 degrees, seeing 70s though for our friends across our Minnesota neighborhoods, 75 in Roseau and Bemidji. But look out toward Miles City, Montana, the far left-hand side of your screen, 91, that current temperature there. So in Fargo for this evening, seeing plenty of sunshine, clear sky, continuing 10 miles per hour. Does keep our evening tonight a bit more mild than it had. Conditions in clear skies for us. The southeast wind does become a bit more of a factor. Of course, coming up on Thursday, we've got that first alert weather day, so I'll explain this in more detail in a few minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Nathan. People in storm-battered Louisiana are trying to pick up the pieces after Hurricane Ida, and they're doing it in the blazing heat. That powerful storm knocked out much of the state's power grid, and as Jason Allen shows us, the outages could last for a month.
While levees along the Mississippi River protected this Kelowna, Louisiana neighborhood from major flooding, Ida stormed in his apartment, and Ida changed his mind about doing that again.
I was scared. I got on my knees, man. It was just horrible. It was horrible. I'd never do it again. I mean, I've been through all kinds of storms, but this one, I'd never do it again.
Residents are trying to clean up debris from damaged roofs and collapsed ceilings while navigating around downed trees and power lines. Jackie Roussel said the storm was worse than Betsy in 1965, and now her family's preparing to possibly live in these conditions for weeks.
Water is a problem. We do not have water. So fortunately, we had thought enough to be able to fill a couple of buckets with water before the storm hit.
Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards toured the destruction in St. John the Baptist Parish and warned evacuees against returning.
The schools are not open, the businesses are not open, the hospitals are slammed. There's not water in your home, and there's not going to be electricity.
The parish still has a dusk to dawn curfew in effect. You still can't get down a lot of roads. They're either covered with floodwaters or power lines or trees, and officials are trying to coordinate distribution sites for necessities like water. The biggest challenge is power. The storm knocked out more than 2,000 miles of transmission lines. 25,000 utility workers are making repairs, and more crews are on the way, but it could be a month before power is restored.
We're asking people to be patient. We're asking people to be careful, and please be good neighbors.
Adding to the misery, a heat index in the 100s over the next couple of weeks. Jason Allen, CBS News, LaPlace, Louisiana.
So far, Ida is blamed for at least 4 deaths in Louisiana and Mississippi. The torrential rain from Ida combined with the above-average rainfall already this year contributed to the collapse of a Mississippi highway. 2 people are dead and 10 others hurt. That happened last night on a frequently traveled road that links Mississippi and Louisiana. Highway Patrol says there were 7 cars involved in the washout. A trooper estimated about 50 feet of the highway was wiped away. Fire crews continued to work the Greenwood fire in northern Minnesota. The weather over the weekend allowed more people and heavy machinery on the ground, bolstering containment lines and stalling the fire's spread. Containment is on the northwest side of the fire, which is this portion of Highway 1. Crews will burn the bottom portion of the land to stop the fire from spreading, called backburning.
So we have to tactically use the weather when we can, taking advantage of those opportunities that will allow us to do those sorts of operations.
Once the firing operation is complete, crews will return to the landscape and go through the area looking for hot spots. Some residents are allowed to return to their properties in the area, but they must be in communication with the Lake County Sheriff's Office in order to get through the road closure. A COVID-19 briefing with health officials from across the metro is shedding light on the state of the pandemic in North Dakota. Health officials say vaccination rates in North Dakota are similar to rates in states seeing large numbers of COVID cases and hospitalizations, and they're urging North Dakotans to get vaccinated and mask up to avoid a similar outcome. The number of active COVID-19 infections in North Dakota are increasing at a similar rate to last fall, right before the peak in November, and the hospitalizations have now surpassed what they were at this time last year.
The overall number of patients in our medical centers in Fargo continues to stay well above 500, and today we are just a few patients shy of our record census reached during the last COVID peak in November.
The director of Fargo Cass Public Health reiterates the longer we allow the virus to circulate, the greater chance we see future variants that may or may not respond to the vaccine. The latest COVID surge in the U.S. could mean more restrictions for Americans traveling to Europe. The European Union has removed the U.S. from its safe list of countries.
Don't please plan any great trans-European adventures. It's difficult enough keeping tabs on what one country.
Countries are now added to a growing list that the CDC says Americans should avoid. Are now listed on the CDC's level 4 very high risk level territories of Guam and Puerto Rico. We all know young the right size, and do you have it installed correctly? It's tough to know all the rules, and placed in the vehicle the right way can reduce the risk of death by more than 70%. Your child's seatbelt strap should be secured, but not too tight and in the right spot for their size.
As adults, we have the seatbelt sitting in the proper area across our lap. A child is not that big, and it's going to end up sitting across their stomach, which could either cause them injuries in an accident, or they might actually slide underneath altogether, which would be tragic. By calling either number there on your screen between the times of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. The fire department says it usually takes about 45 minutes. It was just another Monday for a Pine County, Minnesota sheriff's deputy until a from underneath his computer and onto the dashboard. The deputy pulled over, opened the doors to let the squirrel out when he saw this: dozens of apples store for the winter. Still ahead at 4, we'll show you a company and kids in the workplace.
And after a quiet Wednesday and impacting us on Thursday, we have a first alert weather day raised for Thursday. We'll explain what this means for us next.